Well, thanks very much for the invitation to be here today. I think you're going to hear some similar themes in my presentation from the previous state folks and really from the whole morning. Let me make sure I can, okay. I'm going to try to keep my comments short. I thought I'd share some statistics from the November 2010 election, share a little bit about our challenges in Texas with meeting the 45-day mail-out deadline, talk a little bit about the impact on the election timeline, which is really profound, talk a little bit about federal-only ballot, and then a few comments about moving forward. Our statistics, thanks to the Election Assistance Commission, we have to ask all the counties for this data, and I think this year we've had the best return on that. I think it's the third or fourth time we've done this survey, so we're feeling pretty good about our data. We mailed out over 69,000 ballots to FPCA voters. 17,516 came back. 25% came back. Undeliverable were 13,714. We don't know what happened to 37,562 ballots. Didn't come back, not undeliverable, they're just out there someplace. The number of ballots counted that came back was 17,298, and I think we're really very proud of that number because I think that shows a huge improvement over past elections. Here's a graphic of that. So you can see, same data. I chose two counties where we have military installations with a large number of FPCA voters, and their statistics reflect the statewide trends that we see as far as a lot of undelivered and unknown ballots out there. Now, a few observations. Our state is still under the old HAVA rule that the FPCA is good for 2 federal elections. And we're hoping to change that, but when the federal law changed, we changed our state law. So we're still stuck with our state law that requires the 2 federal general election time period. We're trying to get that changed this session. I think that those 50,000 ballots that we can't account for, it's due to that old HAVA rule of the 2 federal elections. People move, and local officials, as Dr. Smith was saying earlier, they know they're sending ballots out to old addresses. So it'll be interesting to compare as all the data comes in and as EAC gets the data and FVAP, you know, how is that rate of non-return compared to those states that now just are following a 1-year rule, and it should be pretty different. Okay, on the 45-day challenge, it really was a challenge, and we felt like we talked to the counties ad nauseum about the requirement to mail out ballots. And for the most part, they were ready to mail out the general election ballot, the midterm ballots, the federal state issues. But what slowed down the process was all the other issues on the ballot, the city issues, the special school district elections, and they have to have joint ballots. So some of those smaller entities slowed down the process. We started monitoring with the help of US DOJ. They started calling the states, so the states started calling the counties and emailing the counties. And I will say, I mean, it was very interesting to hear Tom Perez's comments this morning because they monitored very closely. We were able actually to leverage that to the counties to say, DOJ is watching. I'm very thankful we weren't one of the many, many states that had to enter into some kind of agreement. But what we did have to do was we had to tell our counties to send out emergency ballots because their official ballots were not back from the printers. So they had to take ballot proofs and copy them. For those that had requested that their ballot be sent via email, they had to then turn that into a PDF of some sort, attach it to an email. We didn't have any very sophisticated solution in our state, so counties basically used, if a voter wanted their ballot sent electronically, they had to email that ballot to the voter. The post office in most Texas counties was closed on Saturday. The 45th day before the election for a November Tuesday election is always going to be on a Saturday. I didn't make a big deal about that when we talked with the Justice Department because some counties were putting those ballots in there on that Saturday. Now, some counties, the larger counties, were able to call the post office, and some post offices were very accommodating and opened up their some locations to receive those ballots. But in some of our more rural counties, that wasn't the case. Okay, impact on the election timeline. This is what we're struggling with right now in our state, because we were able to meet the November deadline because we had moved up our ballot certification deadlines. There's no way we're going to meet it for our primary. And we're a state, in addition to our primary, we have a runoff primary election. And there's just no way our current calendar is going to accommodate that. The big realization is, before that 45th day deadline to mail ballots, you need at least 3 weeks. If you're talking about a major election with a lot of offices, you need 3 weeks to program your ballots, get them printed, and get them tested. At least that's the way it is in our state. We don't have that many certified vendors. It's a very small community, and there aren't that many folks that print ballots that the machines can count properly. So we've found you really need to add 3 weeks before the 45 days. And if you really talk about it from the filing deadline to the day of the election, it's really about 11 weeks. That's a profound impact on most elections. Most folks think you can call an election to fill a vacancy and get it done in maybe 30 days, 36 days. You know, you can't, MOVE won't allow that anymore, at least for offices, for elections with a federal office. We are working with our legislature right now. As Secretary Reed said, people don't like to mess up with the system that brought them there. There's a lot of anxiety about moving election dates. So we're still talking. That bill hasn't even been filed yet to move those dates, but it will be. Emailing ballots. Again, you're going to hear some similar themes. What was really nice was the quick turnaround. And I've heard Bob Carey use an example in Bexar County a few times. Poor Bexar County, they had over 7,000 FPCA voters, and they had a local election that had a September 12th filing deadline. So they were one of the counties that had to create emergency ballots, make copies, and then scan them and email them. So they were sending out all these emergency ballots. They sent them out on Saturday, and I think that Jackie Callanan, the EA, got her first ballot back the Tuesday or Wednesday after. You know, this is the third, fourth week of September, and she's had a returned ballot back. So it was an incredible turnaround, and really much easier to communicate with the voters through the email. A lot of positives on that. On the cons, for most counties, it was a very laborious process to scan these ballots in and attach it to an email. And many counties, in our more rural counties, you're talking about folks that have a lot of different jobs. Elections is just one of their jobs as an elected county clerk, and many of them don't have any technical support. So our office, I remember I had one conversation with one clerk, and I was really walking her through copying and pasting into an email. I mean, basic stuff to a lot of folks, but you're asking local election officials who may not have any technical background to now implement a purely electronic process, and there's going to be some bumps along the way with that. Interestingly, some voters, they got their ballots real fast through the email, and this is similar to the results of the OVF survey, their response was, you know what, this ballot looks really funny. I want the real thing. I don't want you to email me my ballot. Please mail me the ballot. So thanks, but no thanks. Yeah. And then, of course, we had the same issues with the printers. Speed it up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll skip the federal ballot. This is, if anyone's interested in that, I'll talk to them later. Next steps, we've got House bill, Senate bill filed to implement changing our calendar, and we'd really like to somehow simplify, streamline the emailing of ballots. And impress upon all election entities the importance of that mandatory 45-day date. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ann.